In about 10 seconds.
Oh, it says 0 on Facebook because it's 9 a.m.
It is 9. We should get started.
You don't have an intro?
Good morning, everyone, and welcome to TCA. My name's Christian.
Good morning. I'm Andy.
Yeah, we are coming to you live this morning, as we do every week, Andy. TCA, every Tuesday.
For some time now, yep.
Every Tuesday at 9 a.m. Eastern Time, we come to you live from Weinig Holz-Her, USA in Mooresville, North Carolina. We are online on Facebook and also on YouTube. We have the social media platforms up right here,
Yep.
and we are ready for your comments. Today's kind of a special TCA.
Yeah, we get questions from time to time, so we thought that today we'd take some time to just answer your questions that you might have. But while we're waiting for some of these questions to come up, Christian, I did, last week I talked some about what I was reading at Forbes.com about they were expecting new housing starts to be up 9%. I just read an article this morning that was put up Friday at FannieMae.com, and they're actually starting to adjust numbers where they're predicting 12.5% increase in new housing starts in 2021.
21?
Yes.
Really?
12.5% increase.
Of new housing starts.
Yeah, and when you research it a little bit, I was reading some articles over the weekend actually, where people now, the housing market, the prices are going up. We've talked about material costs going up. We've talked about the inventory that's available being down and things like that. So all of that's contributing to how higher prices, especially. I mean, we're seeing it in North Carolina. We're seeing it across the country.
That's right.
But now they're starting to see that people are not necessarily wanting to sell their home because it's worth more, because they're realizing that they're going to have to pay more to replace it. So a lot of people are now starting to. The inventory is tightening more because people are starting to just renovate their existing homes again. And so that's creating an environment where new housing starts is projected to be up in 2021.
Right.
12.5% over. We already saw the second half of 2020 where we started to see some real increases. Now 12.5% above that. So looking good for our industry.
So, so like Andy said in the beginning, this is a Ask Us Anything episode, but as we wait for your questions, we thought we'd share just a little bit about the industry. So again, if you're watching us live, get your questions in the chat. We're on Facebook and YouTube. Either platform we're monitoring, and we'll answer your questions. But, I also am curious, hearing that information, I want to know, how is your business getting ready for even more of a new construction push? Because this is, we've already been crunched a bit the last half of 2020, looking for more ways to construct more efficiently, more affordably. How's this going to affect your business, your manufacturing operation? We want to know. So drop us a line in the comments, ask us a question or start a discussion, and we'll take it. But, one thing we mentioned last week, Andy, was that need for automation.
Yeah.
Right. And that continues, I think, and will continue to be a strong hold on decision making going forward.
I think potentially even more. I mean, in recent addresses to the nation, where labor is not going to get cheaper.
Yeah. Right.
And it's going to continue to be there's going to continue to be some incentives in place to help people that are not working. So as those things continue to be a factor in decision making, I think automation is going to be more and more a topic.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right.
Especially if the housing starts are going up, that we're tied so closely to housing in our industry, and if that's going to increase, we're going to be forced to we need to produce more products from our industry. And how do we do that now with potentially having to have the same or fewer people in factories? Right. So, I mean, the way we do that is automate.
Yep. All right, so we got a couple questions, Andy. So we're going to start off with one that actually came in prior to our live stream. It's a good question, and okay, and it's fairly simple. Andy, where is Weinig even from? You want to take that one?
Sure. So Weinig, our headquarters is actually in Tauberbischofsheim in Germany, which is about an hour-ish, plus or minus, southwest of Frankfurt, so it's pretty easy to get to.
And for those of you who can't say it, we just call it TBB.
Right, so the license
easy.
tags, the license plates in Europe a lot of times reference the region of a country that you're from. And so if you are from the Tauber-Bischofsheim area in Germany, your license tag will say TBB on it to reference that you're from the
TBB,
area. So,
right.
so typically we refer to the area where the factory is as TBB.
That's right. So anyone watching at TBB this morning, shout out to you guys.
Yeah.
Thanks for shortening up that name for those of us who have pronunciation problems. So anyway, the headquarters is in TBB.
Right, and then there are 4 factories in Germany.
Okay.
On the Weinig side, the HolzHer factory is in Austria.
Okay.
The HolzHer headquarters is in Germany, but the factory is in Austria.
Right.
The LuxCan is produced in Luxembourg. There is one factory in the group in Yantai, China. Mm-hmm. And then there's a factory here in the United States in Connolly Springs. We refer to it as Weinig Hickory often, but it's in Connolly Springs where we produce material handling for primarily the North American market.
That's right.
Yep. So Weinig is from all over.
So it's from all over. If you have a Weinig or HolzHer installation in your shop, it could be from anywhere in the world, really. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's where the factories are from. But
yeah, actually, the folks from the factory, when they come to see us, they oftentimes buy round the world tickets. Like they'll go from Germany to Asia to North America, back to Europe that way.
Right. All right. So next question comes from Mr. Chris Sauer on Facebook. Will customers be able to see Boark sanders on the Mooresville showroom this year?
Yeah, so Boark has, we have a great relationship with Boark. We show off their product. We also have the challenges that we don't have limitless or unlimited space here in the showroom. So we do from time to time show demonstrations. If someone really needs to see a demonstration on a Boark sander, we can absolutely make that happen. We have typically pulled one from inventory and set it up in the showroom upon request. We haven't traditionally had taken up a lot of floor space in the showroom to show it all the time. Again, we do have lots of factories that we're trying to please on that side. But if you've got somebody that needs to see it, absolutely we can make it happen.
Yeah. So good question, Chris. And real quick, let's just run down, Andy, for those watching who are not aware. We just talked about Weinig and HolzHer machinery during the first question, which is where is Weinig from, but now Chris is asking about Boark sanders. Mm-hmm. What are some other manufacturers that Weinig HolzHer USA represents?
So we are North American representation for Boark on the sanders side. Also for Kundig, so for some of your higher-end specialized sanders, they build an amazing sander. We actually do typically keep a Kundig in the showroom to show demonstrations. We have a new relationship, a new partnership that we announced last year, right before the Retool Tour, with Shota. So we are now representing Shota here in the United States, actually all of North America. So we represent Shota in the U.S., Canada, and Mexico. And we are working with a service company that has been in the U.S. for a while, servicing Shotas to help us as we get up to speed on the service side. But there is a fully functional company that does a lot of service parts and installations currently, and then we also have our technicians that are being brought up to speed on the Shota line as well.
Right.
So.
Very good. All right. Next question, Andy. And I'm going to take a crack at this one as well. This one also came in prior to the live stream this morning, which is, does Weinig make a two-head planer?
Well, I guess it depends on how you want to answer the question. If you remove two heads from a four-sided planer, it becomes a two-sided planer.
I guess you could do that, right? So I guess yes. This question kind of comes up now and then for shops that are either looking to replace a couple planers, an existing two-head planer. They want to get into Weinig technology, and they're basically wanting to swap out an existing machine. That's when this question normally comes up. Mm-hmm. You know, I think this is how I would answer it, which is, while we don't have a dedicated two-head planer, really the question is what are you doing to those work pieces after they get planed?
Right.
What happens to those work pieces downstream from that working station? Because I think what happens is that when you introduce Weinig technology into a manufacturing atmosphere or environment, one thing that we look at as Weinig experts, but also many of our customers look at it as well, is not so much what can we swap out, but how can we actually make the entire line more efficient? How can we add a single piece of technology to replace 3 pieces of technology or 2 pieces of technology? And I think this is actually where molders have such a huge advantage, because over the years we've always told our customer base, and it was true back when you buy your first molder, and it's still true today, where molders really replace 3 pieces of equipment on a small shop environment, which is your planer, your joiner, and your shaper. And so, I would say, to answer that question, which is, does Weinig have just a top-bottom planer? I would say, well, actually, Weinig has so much more. What else can you roll into that single piece of Weinig technology that you would introduce onto your shop floor? How can you make the entire line go through less equipment, and therefore you have less equipment to keep up, you have less room for error, you have less operators, etc.
Well, it makes your production more efficient as well, right? You have less steps. Right? You have less steps, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
So yeah, we primarily are going to plane 4 sides of a board, and that's going to make you more efficient. You don't have to go to multiple machines, which is actually how the Weinig machines started, right? That's why they were so popular.
That's
when
exactly
they first came.
right. That's
when they
exactly
first came
right.
to the U.S., they were replacing 3 or 4 machines to plane and profile a part, where you used to have to go to multiple shapers to do that.
Right, and that's still, that same principle still holds true today. And then we introduce other machines that maybe you're only doing, say, S4S. Well, now we introduce the Cube Plus, which is just a very simple S4S planer, easy to use, one of the safest machines out there. I mean, it's just very easy. We do a couple of video demos on that on YouTube. You can go over to the channel and check them out. Great little machine. Okay, well, let's get on to more questions. We've covered a good amount so far. Andy, you got any over there?
Well, I'm looking at Facebook, and I see there's one that just came in about the Powermobile, and will it be traveling across the country in 2021? And
good question.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean,
yeah.
Yeah. I mean, we traveled in 2020 again. We hit some different locations. I think Utah, California, Texas,
and up in the Northeast in 2020.
The Northeast in Pennsylvania. Did we go across the Midwest? I'm trying to remember.
We were in Texas a couple times, I think, over in 2020. Anyway, the question is 2021 because 2020 has passed, right? And so, yeah. So the answer is the Powermobile is just an absolute great tool to get Weinig technology to shops. They don't have to travel. We actually bring the machines to you. If you've never seen the Powermobile and you don't know what we're talking about, there's a great live stream that we did last year at the Retool Tour, I believe it was, in Utah. In Utah, at Axis International Machinery, which is our agent out there in West Jordan, Utah. And we did a live stream with the truck out there. We were streaming for at least an hour,
so,
probably maybe even 2.
Talking with Jimmy.
Yeah, talking to our Weinig expert and resident Powermobile driver, Jimmy. And we just did a full live stream on the Powermobile. So if you haven't watched it, go back and watch that. We really do want to get that truck moving again this year. So it's still the beginning of the year. We'll plan out some trips, hopefully up to the Northeast, maybe once you guys, thaw out a bit. And
so if you're watching and you'd like to see it, so typically what we do is our agents kind of request it to come to their area. So if you really want to see it in your part of the country, talk with your local Weinig agent and say, hey, I'd really like to see the Powermobile. And then your agent will call and schedule it, and we'll make sure that it comes through your part of the country.
All right, let's see, moving on. Here's another question. So where can I get machine manuals? And I'm assuming that the questions about like operation manuals that would come with a machine, how to use it, wiring diagrams, etc.
Yeah, that question comes in a fair amount, I think, not just
It
for this
does, right?
event, yeah.
Yes.
You know, when you've been, you know, Weinig has been in the U.S. since '76, and so since 1976, there are a lot of machines out there, and so, you know, ultimately, lots of machines get bought and sold over and over, and if you've got a machine that maybe you're the second or third owner and you're looking for the manual, so yeah, if you call the parts department, call here, and you can order manuals for.
Absolutely.
I would guess almost every machine. I'm sure there are some outliers, some special machines that maybe it'd be more difficult to find the manuals from 1976. But for the most part, just about anything you need, our parts department can set you up with it.
1976. That's
Yeah.
the tough one.
Yeah.
77 is not too bad. We got that one covered. But
Yeah.
76, that's the threshold right there.
I mean, I didn't know that the world existed before then. I was born in '77, so I didn't know that anything before that existed.
All right. We got a question on YouTube, Andy.
Okay.
So, hang on one second. Let me just pull this up. Does Weinig Holz-Her have any plans to improve support infrastructure after warranty periods in all parts of the U.S.?
Yes. Absolutely.
You want to take that one? Yeah. Go
Yeah.
ahead.
So
All right.
when we're constantly tweaking, we're constantly improving. We understand that that across the country there are different time zones also that we battle with that, and how, you know, 5 o'clock on the East Coast is 2 o'clock on the West Coast. So we're constantly trying to improve, have 24-hour availability for service technicians. Yeah, we will continue. Some of this stuff might be available. If you haven't looked into it recently, you might ask again, because there are some things that are available after hours and in certain parts of the country and the world and all over North America that maybe you didn't know were available. But we're going to continue to tweak that and improve that. And you know, we have an office in Anaheim that we've discussed having more people there on a more of a regular basis. And so, yeah, you're going to see a lot more improvement, a lot more additions to that in 2021.
Yep. So good answer to how we look to increase support. I think that is a paramount idea, a paramount goal of ours is to provide the.
Well,
the
we're a
best
sales
support.
and service organization.
Absolutely.
They go hand in hand. So
Yeah.
it's really hard to sell machines if you're not servicing them. So we constantly try to improve and become more efficient on the sales side, but we are also constantly trying to improve to become more efficient, but also to provide a better service on the service side.
Well, as we become more efficient at service, we provide better service. I mean, it goes hand in hand.
And we know that that's how we sell the next machines.
Sure.
So providing better service. We do have a question here
All right, what do you got?
from Mr. Reed asking about the parts shipments every day from Mooresville. I think he knows the answer to that. but I'll go ahead and
Go ahead, Andy.
I'll take a stab at that. Yeah, so we average anywhere from 500 to 800 shipments per week from
Okay.
our location here in.
We're talking
Mooresville.
about spare parts.
Just
That's
parts
what,
out of the
that's what we're
parts
talking
department, yeah.
Yeah,
So
okay.
so that's a lot. So that could be anywhere from, you know, on average 100 to 150 shipments that we make every single day from here, and primarily we're supporting the U.S. We do ship parts to Canada as well.
Okay.
But I guess it's not too often that we would send anything to Mexico or anywhere else. So primarily the U.S. and Canada from here. But yeah, up from anywhere from 100 to 150 shipments every day.
So a couple other things about shipments. So the original question was how many do we send out, but to kind of supplement that answer, it's not just about sending out parts shipments. Our team here in Mooresville, we receive in air shipments from the factories twice a week, I believe.
Yeah, multiple times a week.
Yeah.
We have them coming from, and again, we mentioned before the number of factories. We have 8 factories, and we're receiving shipments from all of them.
Right, and they're coming in air, so it's not one of those things where that's where I think we
Well,
have
air and ocean freight.
Well,
so
air
we
and
have
ocean
both-
freight.
both.
But where I'm getting at is I think that gives us an advantage on being able to be a bit more flexible and dynamic
Sure.
in our parts fulfillment.
Sure.
Is that we're not having to forecast 6 weeks out always.
Right.
If we need something, you know, in a few days, we put it on the next air shipment.
Yeah,
So-
well, and that's part of being a global community or a global company
You
in a
have
global
to.
community,
You got
right?
to,
We have
right?
to be
Yep.
able to do things quickly no matter where it is in the world.
Absolutely. All right, we got more coming in, Andy. So this is a good one. Maybe we can pause and elaborate on this. Why are HolzHer machines so expensive?
Well, you might, depending on who you ask, somebody else might ask why they're so inexpensive.
Why are they so inexpensive? Why are they so expensive? Perspective is everything.
Perspective is everything. It's all relative.
But we'll share the perspective that they are expensive to answer this question.
So yeah.
So go ahead. I have my. But you.
No, go ahead. Go ahead.
So I think HolzHer, and let's just back up real quick because HolzHer, predominantly panel processing machines. There are so many variations on application, on materials, on layouts, on what kind of shop it goes into, what that shop is going to put that machine under, that just by the nature of it, HolzHer machines are very feature rich. They have a ton of different features to meet all these variables that might be expected from that machine. So oftentimes you have shops that are looking for a specific panel processing solution, and a HolzHer machine fits that and fits it really well. And there may be some features on there that shop may not use at that time, that they can grow into, that they can scale up to, but they're part of that machine. So that could be one reason.
Well, and so that is absolutely part of the reason. To expand a little more on that, you have features, but then depending on how specific you want that feature to be, what components you are adding to the machine to make that feature be available. I've been in the machinery world for a long time, and there are, a ball screw isn't just a ball screw. Different manufacturers make ball screws differently, and they make them better. And so depending on what kind of accuracy you want, depending on how long you want the machine to last, depending on how robust or how rigid you want it to be. So there are things like that contribute to the cost of the machine. You kind of, in our world, it really is, the saying is true that you kind of get what you pay for, right? So it's going to be more expensive to get a better quality machine. And that's true in lots of areas of our life. How many times have you bought something that you bought it because you thought it was on sale, you thought it was a good deal, and you bought it and it wasn't the right thing, and you should have bought the better brand, and you knew it as soon as you traveled. I bought a suitcase one time because I thought it was going to save me some money, and the very first time I used it, one of the wheels broke off. How inconvenient is it to drag a suitcase through an airport with no wheel on it? So,
well, and I think in our industry and when it comes to woodworking machinery, sometimes, in fact, many times, you don't realize what you bought until maybe 6 months after you buy it, or a year after you buy it. When you have some wear, you have some hours on the machine, that's when it all really comes, when the rubber hits the road. So yeah, you pay for what you get, and at times you don't really fully understand what you get until after you've put some use on it.
I mean, it goes beyond. Most of the inexpensive machines, not all, but oftentimes you'll see a new company that will spring up, and their machines are less expensive than an established company. And it is true that you kind of, when you buy from an established company, you are having to pay a price that helps us to support the people who are supporting the machines.
That are supporting you, right?
So startup companies typically are inexpensive. They sell a lot of machines, and then they'll reach a point in their development where either they're going to have to hire people to support the machines that they ship, or they're going to have to go out of business and start another company. And so that's kind of the companies that have been around for as many years as Weinig and HolzHer have been around. They do have overhead associated with that, but that overhead helps you to have a better experience, helps the machines to last longer, and things like that, because you have experts that you can reach on the phone.
That's very true, and that's, again, so that goes back to the original question of why are HolzHer machines so expensive. Again, we would say they're expensive to some, they're not expensive to others. They're right on target for some shops. But ultimately, they are valued as what they are because of these reasons, because they are heavy in features. because they do use superior manufactured parts, because we have a support team, a diagnostics team that's based out of here that gives you phone support, a field service team that, I mean, talk about road warriors. Those guys are absolutely awesome. And they, you know, they show up on site, they make your machine do all kinds of stuff. So
one thing I would mention is a lot of times maybe the expected answer would be exchange rate, or might be part of the answer. And I'll point out, because I've worked for U.S. manufacturers, I've worked for now European manufacturers, and exchange rate affects everyone. So it's not something that's unique to a European company, because, again, we mentioned earlier how we are in a global economy, a global community, and so even the companies that are manufacturing in the U.S. are having to buy components that are coming from Europe. A lot of components come from Europe. And a lot of components come from Asia, no matter where you're manufacturing. So we all face the battle of currency exchange, no matter
right.
where we're building in the world.
That's right. All right, so next question came in. Again, this one came in prior to the stream. I kind of had this one in the chamber here, and I'm going to let Andy take this one, because if you're watching the stream, or if you've watched our streams in the past, you know Andy here comes from, I guess it would be fair to say, come from more of a CNC router background.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. And he'll like to say that he's been in the industry for quite some time. So, so Andy, the question is, why would a shop need a 5-axis router versus a 3-axis router?
Okay, so that's almost like the last question, where it's all about perspective, because you know, there's not much you can't do with a 3-axis machine.
Right.
It just could require a 5-axis machine could allow you to do it quicker, because you don't have to reposition the part.
Okay. All right.
It can make it where it's it's a little more convenient, because it can be inconvenient to reposition a part to do certain angles and things like that. And a lot of people buy 5-axis just because they want 5-axis. You know, I mean, there are some people that I mean, people buy Ferraris, right? I mean, why do they buy a Ferrari? Because they want a Ferrari. So the same thing, somebody would buy a 5-axis because they want a 5-axis. I've actually, in my former life, I knew of companies. I actually installed machines at places where they were putting incredibly expensive CNC machines in a shop behind their house, and it was simply for hobby work. You know, one guy I'll never forget told me that he said some people, he was investigating buying a boat from a friend of his, and his friend came to him and said, "I know you love my boat. You can, before I put it on the market, I'm going to give you the first right of refusal on it. It'll be yours for $750,000. And he said, $750,000 was a great deal for that boat. But then he started thinking, you know, I don't really love boats, but you know, I don't know if I want to own a boat, but what I do love is woodworking. So I thought, what kind of shop could I put behind my house for $750,000? And he actually exceeded that and spent about $1 million, but he put $1 million shop behind his house. So it takes all kinds. But yeah, 5-axis gives you a little more convenience. It helps you to produce things quicker. So that would be, you know, that's where our experts would go in and see your manufacturing practices, see what you're actually trying to accomplish, see if a 5-axis machine could help you be more efficient or not, and see if you can justify it.
Now, I'll also say, Andy, and maybe you can speak on this. So for some solid wood applications, a 5-axis, there are definitely milling operations that need 5-axis. If you're doing, say, carvings, or if you're doing complex shapes out of a
so there are so few yes, absolutely. So you would need 5-axis, and you would need to be able to interpolate 5-axis for some things, but that is such a fine.
Sure.
Even a lot of the carvings that you would do, you could still index the part and carve on multiple faces and accomplish the same thing. But there are some times where you need to actually interpolate multi-axis carving, and in those cases, it would require a 5-axis or a multi-axis machine of some sort.
Right. If you need any kind of more of like an upcut angle or something.
But I mean, if you think about it, you can still do that with 3-axis if you have enough 3-axis travel.
That's true.
A good friend of mine used to always say, he's a fantastic technician in the CNC world, and he used to always say that your limitation on a CNC router is your X-axis, your Y-axis, your Z-axis, and your imagination.
There you go. There you go. All right, so so I hope that gives some insight into why folks go with a 5-axis instead of a 3-axis. Again, most milling is very 3-axis, very capable for most milling. You can save time. You can save setup with a 5-axis, and some people get 5-axis just because they want it. So yeah, good enough. Good enough. All right, let's see what else we got, Andy. Going back to the question list here. Let me bring that up. Okay, so good question, and this has been brought up by a couple people here in-house as well, which is, will there be an open house here in Mooresville this year? Will there be an open house here? So I looked in the crystal ball this morning, and it's still a bit foggy for 2021. So I don't know what I can. I don't know where I can go with that.
Well, we'll certainly have events here. It's going to be a little bit. I mean, right now because we don't know. Actually, to back up some the articles that I was reading talking about the industry over the weekend, one of them actually is predicting that we will be. What was the words that they used? I think I actually typed it down because I wanted to make sure that I got it just right. The removal of economic behavioral restrictions. They're expecting us to see the removal of economic behavioral restrictions by mid-spring this year because of the things with the vaccinations that are out there, and more people will have had the vaccine by then and things. So they're expecting mid-spring for that. So if that's the case, then I mean you're going to see more events, not just here in Mooresville, but also in California and some of the agents locations that we have across the country, and we look forward to that. And even if we still have those restrictions, we'll do some sort of an event. It'll just be more focus on the live stream portion of it.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that this will also kind of dovetails into a question that we get asked quite often in the last few months, which is what's the deal with AWFS, which is obviously our big trade show here in the United States this year. And so right now the show is still on, but again, it's you know, to kind of try to look at that and imagine what that's going to be like. The crystal ball's a bit foggy.
We hope it's going to be fantastic.
We absolutely, and look, I think if it happens, it is going to be fantastic. One where now, what does that fantastic look like? Well, it might not look like fantastic like years past. It might have a huge digital component, and like what Andy was saying about our open house. The events that we do have throughout the year will obviously have that large digital focus on that as well.
Right. So I mean, so actually, let's mention that because last week we talked about maybe we would do a live stream from Ligna, and fantastic. The folks from Ligna have reached out and said no problem. We would love for you guys to have a live stream from the booth at Ligna, and so we'll, you know, let's talk about the same thing for AWFS. If it's uncertain, if we can have the show, but maybe there aren't a lot of people that are ready to travel, then let's try to have the show. Let's have machines, and let's try to do some live streaming.
Absolutely.
And the reason we need to throw that out is because, you know, oftentimes internet isn't fantastic in trade show booths, so we would need to have some sort of a better.
The infrastructure. We need some infrastructure to live stream.
But I hope
from
that we
Vegas.
can do that. We hope that we can bring some things to you, because again, this what we're doing here is we happen to be at Weinig, right? We happen to be at Weinig HolzHer USA, but we want this to be about the industry. So we hope to generate some enthusiasm and some additional love for our industry. So if we can do that by live streaming from trade shows and things like that, we want to do that.
Yeah, absolutely, we want to do that. And we want to get you guys involved. So if you're watching this, if you have been watching TCA, if you have been following our live streams, we want you guys to be involved in live streams in the future. Whether that's, you know, if you're a manufacturer, whether that's us coming and live streaming from your shop, giving you kind of a feature focus, like what we've done with shops in the past, then reach out to us, reach out to your local Weinig Holz-Her expert, let them know that you're game, and we'll make it happen. Or you're gonna travel to Vegas for the show? You want to be on our live stream? Let us know. Absolutely, we'll make it happen. So we do, like Andy said, we want to make this about the industry. We want to make this about you. We want it to be actually helpful to manufacturers and to the woodworking industry out there.
Listen, if we don't make our industry more attractive, where's it going to go? So we want to build awareness of what we're doing in this industry, because this is not what people think of manufacturing as being. It is unique, but it's a great industry, and we want to make sure and let everyone know just how great it is. Mr. Reed has put another comment in here to make sure that you all know there will be a show in Toronto. It's scheduled for early November this year as well. So maybe we'll do a live stream from there.
Well, maybe we'll do a live stream from there. You know, going back real quick to, and this all kind of stemmed from, in fact, I don't even remember what question this stemmed from, but, oh, if we were going to do an open house. But going back to making our industry attractive, I think that's, you know what, last week we decided what we were going to do this week for TCA. I think a future TCA needs to be about how this industry is attracting younger talent. There's a lot of organizations out there that develop that younger generation to kind of take over this industry. And one, we'd love to hear from you. We want to know how that's happening, because here at Weinig Holz-Her USA, we see that. We see this industry remaining a older demographic industry, and at times struggling to attract that younger crowd. And that's something that we care deeply about.
Yeah, you know what? Let's go beyond that. So if you're if you happen to be watching and you're somebody that really wants to speak to this, maybe you're from a university that's really promoting manufacturing and woodworking manufacturing at a university or in a university system, and you want to be on here, let us know. If you're from a college or a university and you're looking for places to put interns, let us know. There's things that we would do here. We have customers that are looking for interns. Let us know. There's lots of things we can do, but we do want to. This is a great industry. We need to get the word out more.
All right, so we got one more question in the queue, and this is everybody's last call. If you're watching us live on Facebook or YouTube, this is your last call to get those questions in the chat, and we will answer them live. If you're not watching us live, feel free to put the questions in the chat anyway. We'll come back to the video and answer them via chat later on. But if you're watching this live, this is your last call. Get them in the chat. All right, so the last one in the queue is, what is the closest showroom you have to Indiana? Okay, so that's really specific. So, yeah. Okay, so let's answer that in a couple different ways. So, right off the bat, Indiana, depending on where you are in Indiana, so we have quite a few of our machines up at Scarlet Machinery in Grand Rapids, Michigan. Yeah, that's north of Indiana.
But if you're in southern Indiana, it might be just as easy to get to Mooresville.
Yep, absolutely. Or you could, if you're in southern Indiana, you could come over to North Carolina to our showroom here. But no matter where you are in the country, really the best thing to do is contact your local Weinig Holz-Her rep, and they will be able to set you up with a showroom visit wherever that may be. Because the other thing is that we don't have the same machines at every location in the U.S. So if you're looking for something specific, then you got to get in touch with us so we can set you up with the right place to go to.
Right, and so if let's say, for example, the machine that you really want to see is in Anaheim and you don't want to travel to California. Right. Well, again, it's really easy for us to set up a virtual demo so you can see some specific features of a machine that's running in California. So we want to make sure that to show you what you want to see. But as Christian mentioned, the best way to make that happen is to contact your local representative and discuss what is it that you want to see, and then we can make that happen. Yeah, whether it be in person or virtually.
Right, not just what machine do you want to see, but what application are you trying to accomplish? Yeah. Because
could require a 5-axis router.
right. So because a lot of times when we set up machine demonstrations, in fact, almost every time, unless the machine is brand new to your production environment, a lot of times our virtual demos or our in-person demos are geared toward your exact application. We'll bring the material in. We'll try to set up that environment to be just like the environment that you would be dealing with on your shop floor. So again, we welcome anyone to come knock on our door, and we'll we'll show you in and give you a tour. But the best way to set up an actual demo, to see machines run, to feel them and to touch the material, etc., is to get in touch with your local Weinig Holz-Her rep.
Yeah.
And they'd be able to figure out exactly where and when and how to do that demo.
Yeah, if you want a generic understanding of what some of these machines do, then that's absolutely what trade shows are for, to get some exposure about what things do. Our open houses that we hold here or some of the locations across the country can give you that generic level of an understanding of a machine. But if you're looking to specifically address a concern that you've got, that's when you really need to talk with the local or the regional guys, and let's set up something specific to you. Let's try to solve your problem.
Right, absolutely. Okay, so I don't see any other questions coming in the feed, so this looks like a really good time to close it out, Andy.
All right.
Yeah, thank you everyone for joining us this morning, and we'll see you next week, 9 a.m.
Yeah, we may not have the whole how do we attract young people to our industry ready for next
maybe
week.
not next week.
Might take a little more planning, especially if we're going to bring in some outsiders for that. But yeah, we'll be back next Tuesday.
Next Tuesday at 9 a.m. Eastern Time for TCA.
Yep.
As always, we love having you guys join us live. If you're watching this after the fact, drop us a question or comment in the feed and we'll get to it. We monitor these videos. Make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel, follow us on Facebook and any other social media that you might be on.
Yeah, be encouraged. We're getting close to being out of this pandemic era. So, so be encouraged. Keep your heads up. Stay safe. We'll see you.